Fifth Third has contributed over $1 million just in Kentucky to various educational purposes, and of course a lot more throughout our footprint. So on a personal note, my wife Laura and I have likewise contributed to education at UK. We put 4 children through UK, and Dr. Capilouto, you are welcome. Our 5th child, however, is a senior at Transylvania, spreading the wealth around a little bit. But she is a big UK fan and has attended 2 of your many recent Final Four appearances. So go Cats and Pioneers.
Thank you, Mark. And also, again, we just want to thank our presenting sponsor, Fifth Third Bank, all of our sponsors who make this event an incredible event. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Dave Atkinson, our partner with the state chambers here. Dave, stand up and let's show Dave our appreciation. We have one of the best state chambers in the nation. Really, he lost a bet with me, and I said I would embarrass him. But no, actually, we travel a lot together. We're in sync, and he really runs one of the best state chambers in the nation on the U.S. Chamber Board, and has a real lifeline for us into a lot of national and international events and issues. At this point, I would like to have Alan Lytle come forward. He is going to he is going to process our, and I have to tell you, every time we go on WKY 91.3 FM, Alan's the news director. Every time we go on to interview with him, I'm not making this up either, we get more feedback from people commenting on the interviews, and I'm amazed. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm just, so the more we can get on there, the more we like it. So just a little subtle hint. But anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Alan. Go ahead, and you can introduce our speaker this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, you should know him by now, but he is the president of the University of Kentucky, Dr. Eli Capilouto. See ya.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you want?
We're right over there.
It's great.
Okay, this is a little bit of deja vu all over again, because early in your tenure, we sat probably on this very dais, and I was one of the first people to ask you about your vision for the university, and that was in 2011. Amazing how time flies. But, you know, you laid out a vision for the campus. Now, we've seen what looks like a lot of progress toward that vision, so give us a progress update here.
Sure. I do remember that event. And I'm glad to know we've gone to stools instead of, that there were some chairs we sat in, and when I sat in it, my knees were above my chin.
I do remember we were reclining quite a bit.
And it was in the early months that I was on campus, and I was really still trying to figure it all out. But I had a great team of people who were working night and day, and so some of the things that I'm able to share, I have to attribute our progress to dozens, hundreds of people that made it happen. And first of all, we're a university that always builds upon its success. I often say I get to close on ask to philanthropists that really began 150 years ago. And there was much progress over the last 150 years and the previous 10 and 20 years. When I arrived here, we had invested hundreds of millions of dollars into our hospital. We had opened a Marksbury building, a project that was approved before I got here, which is fantastic, our new Visual Arts Center, where we preserved and renovated former lofts, outstanding space. We built a soccer, softball complex, and a track. All that was done under Dr. Todd. So we continued to rebuild a campus. We have $1.8 billion of construction either completed, underway or in design, but financing arranged that commenced during the last 4 years. And the infrastructure is centered around sort of several goals. And it's the answer to the why do you build all this. First of all, you want to attract talent, and outstanding investigators and faculty really can go anywhere they choose. And you've got to have the very best in the way of facilities, and you can't describe a dream to them. You got to show them. Second, you want talented students, and you want those students who want to work hard and join the ranks of the most talented to be attracted to your university. So we have invested in residence halls and in academic facilities. Our new Gatton College of Business, Academic Science Building, to name just a couple. The spaces within which we want to create that 21st century learning were really not available in the old antiquated residence halls that were 50, 60, 70 years old. One of the delights I have, I walk the campus a lot. A few nights ago, I walk into that area now of Woodland Glen. Woodland Glen 3 is just one of our 19 locations for living learning communities. This one houses those for engineers. So there are 600 engineering majors that live in that residence hall. And there's a huge, it's almost like a design laboratory. And at night, these students work with each other and teach each other. And it's really gratifying to walk in that room and see all these white boards with equations that I'm glad I don't have to understand. Steve Byers reminds me, Dr. Todd understood all those equations. Good for him, I don't understand. But you know that's what Kentucky is going to need in the 21st century. And so those spaces come alive. And I also enjoy, when I walk around campus, the dozens of new dining facilities that keep people on campus where it's safe, where we have thousands of cameras and enhanced counseling, all those things to make it a nurturing environment for people to meet people different than themselves. We now have students from all 50 states, over 100 countries. You can hear a variety of languages, perspectives, identities, and we think this is the kind of environment that's going to best prepare students for the world that awaits them.
As a follow-up, we see a lot of, as you mentioned, the cranes on campus and something you wanted to address when you arrived, but what is the full scope of the construction on campus?
Yeah, it's the $1.8 billion. I think it's 4.8 million square feet. The replacement facility or building for the World Trade Center towers that were taken down and recently opened. Well, imagine if you put that building in downtown Lexington and increased it by 50%. That's how much square footage we built. It's of that magnitude. So it's startling to me, to be honest with you. It's fantastic when you walk around those sites too, because of all the jobs that have been created and the local people that take pride in being part of building something for the University of Kentucky that is really going to permanently transform not just the physical facilities, but the student experience.
That leads me to the next question. What does that transformation mean on the ground for, let's talk about the faculty, staff, and the students.
I can tell you several vignettes, but one that is most recent in my memory. Our visual arts faculty, who are quite creative. I mean, if you go to Owensboro now and you see the walk into their new, I guess it's Civic Center, and it has a 3-story atrium, and there's really a stunning exhibit of art that covers the entire wall. Oh, that's our Arturo Sandoval. He won that competition. Had some stiff national artists, international artists. But Arturo and his colleagues worked in a dilapidated, unsafe former Reynolds tobacco warehouse. Well, that group is now in this new facility. And I mean, it just puts a lift in their step. And I'm sure it's going to improve their discoveries and creativity, but it also enhances the teaching and learning experience of our students. And you can say that for all of these facilities. You walk in the new Gatton College of Business now. It's not complete. We've got to do the second phase, but people hang out there now. It's got a 4-story atrium. It's a place you want to be. There's a social stairwell where people can spread their things out, work together, learn together, be part of teams. That's what life is going to hold for them. And then the new research facilities, which I'll talk about in more detail later, especially what we're conceiving for our next research building, with a focus on the most pressing problems in Kentucky, I think is going to be unique space that you can't find anywhere else.
Let's talk about the quality of students and the enrollment numbers released.
Yeah, every year the number of students who want to come to the University of Kentucky increases. I think our applications were up 10 or 20% again this year. We never turn away a qualified Kentuckian, but we're gratified that we are becoming a first choice for students not only in Kentucky but in the region and nationally. We have now, from the last 3 years, nearly 400 National Merit Scholars. We have 117 in this year's class. That puts us in the top 10 of all public research universities in the country. Those learning experiences we're able to provide, from honors to the other 18 living learning communities, are very attractive and make us nationally competitive. We have over 30,000 students. We could have really many more, but we wanted a quality class. It's our most diverse class. It's the best prepared class. And we want to be sure that we can provide an optimal experience for that group.
Next question that I wanted to ask you is, we've seen a lot of investment in athletics facilities, clearly important for the Big Blue Nation fan base and the athletics program, but what does it mean for the university as a whole?
All the space we build, we like to say, creates community. I often say the most sacred thing a family can do is break bread together. So all these dining facilities, when you walk through them at all hours of the night and you see people having a meal together, that's creating community, starting at a family level. So everything we do builds community. Now, 60,000 people, and I know everybody in this room stayed through the overtime Saturday night. Sharing that kind of thrilling experience is a memory that bonds people, and it's special. But the other special parts are go to a softball game or a volleyball game or a soccer match, and see who attends. Yeah, they're families of players, but they're all the kids that are 10 and 11 years old playing soccer, who hang around and all the players sign autographs. I mean, that's community too. And it's a wholesome community. centering around sports. And why is it so successful to be, why is it so important to be competitive in football? And we had to make those investments. And, you know, this year I think we were second in the country in the NCAA outdoor track meet. You know, we had a pretty good program, but boom, we're up here. And people say, well, how'd that happen? And I say it's a simple formula. Before I got here, there was an investment in a track, you know, so we have the best facilities you can have. We went out and got a great coach in Edric Floreal that we got from Stanford. He came back. So you got talent, infrastructure, and that begets more talent. So they come in, you can attract the best, and they're successful. Well, our football facilities were not among the best. In fact, they were, you know, subpar. So we have a new training facility. We have a stadium that increases the fan experience. We shrunk it some, but we added more amenities. Those entirely pay for themselves. And men's basketball and football, out of the 22 sports we sponsor at the University of Kentucky, which is more than any in the Southeastern Conference, make possible the other 20 sports. Because those two have positive revenues. The other 20 depend on the revenues from those two sports. And football especially has a revenue that is twice that of basketball. So for us to be competitive in football was important.
And those revenues also have benefited the construction and some investment across the campus, correct?
Yes. Two I'll mention. We would not have had this new academic science building, which is breathtaking. It'll be open this fall. It was a $112 million project, and UK Athletics is funding 2/3 of that. But a couple of weeks ago, we announced a Sports Science Institute in partnership with athletics. Scott Lephart, our new dean of the College of Health Sciences, has a long track record of funded research, largely to support military science, because that's important for our armed services. But it also looks at performance amongst athletes. So that was a partnership. We've got I think a 6,000 square foot facility that'll have the most modern equipment. Scott was able to announce just a couple of weeks ago a $4 million grant, and we'll have more and more of that. And those grants, by the way, they really are great job creators. So Scott will assemble a team. There'll be dozens of people, and these are high-paying jobs.
In the time we have left, let's talk a little bit about some new projects on the horizon. What do you see, in the next couple of years or 5 years?
Well, we've got a lot to complete. We have our new student center, $175 million project. You can tell we've almost finished taking down the old facility. The alumni gym is going to be a spectacular fitness center. Then the first part of the student center, the 1930s project with its ballroom, is going to be totally renovated and restored. Then the rest of it is all new, and I can't find the words to adequately capture what you're going to see there. The misnomer is that it's a student center. It's a center for the University of Kentucky community and for the Lexington community. It's going to have wonderful spaces to further build community. We've got a black box theater on the front of it that has a breathtaking design. You have alumni gym on one side, and then a new bookstore, dining, meeting spaces in the heart of the place. When Martin Luther King Boulevard ends, Martin Luther King Center, Cultural Center, will be right there in nucleus of the building. So that space, I can't wait till it's completed. They tell me, I think it's fall of 17 or January of 18. I walk by it all the time. I think I'm very anxious about getting that done. And then we have all those other spaces. We also want to direct our attention to restoring the core of our campus. The University of Kentucky is the oldest campus in Kentucky, and it has the most space. So consequently, it has the most deferred maintenance, and it also has a lot of space that's not accessible to people with disabilities. So we'd like, and some of these buildings are really beautiful and can be functional, but they need some tender loving care. And that's expensive construction, as you know, to preserve those buildings, but we're dedicated to it.
This time, I think we're going to open up the floor to some questions. We have a roving person with a microphone, and let's see if you can put the president on the hot seat here. Anybody have a question? One here. Sylvia Lovely, ladies and gentlemen.
Sure, great question. So the $1.8 billion of construction we have underway, we have relied on just 10% from the state for that construction. So you couldn't sit around and wait for the state. The state has many challenges. My respect for the state legislators and the governor has only grown during my tenure here, because we've done a lot of great things in Kentucky, and we have some financial challenges, but they found a way to support us, especially with this new research building, and we're most appreciative. But we have to earn our own way forward, I tell people. The partnerships we did in dining and in housing are an example of that. Provision of $100 million of capital that really weren't at our disposal. It is primarily because we want to increase the diversity of our class. You know, I have someone locally, one of my physicians that I go for an annual checkup, who said, we got 3 children. The first one was talking about going out of state. We would have tried to support that if she wanted to do it, but wow, those are pricey alternatives. So we let her make her choice, and she chose UK. I went to orientation. They had everybody from Kentucky stand up, had them sit down, and then everybody else in the room stood up and told where they were from. Now, 38% of our entering classes the last 2 years have been from out of state or out of country. And she said her daughter turned to her and said, "Hey, it's like going out of state." And it is. And the other factor is those individuals, on average, pay twice what Kentuckians pay. Keep in mind, every qualified Kentuckian is offered a space at the University of Kentucky. So that's another way that we earn our way forward. The next part is through philanthropy. And we've had some spectacular gifts. We'll be announcing more spectacular gifts over the next several months. And that is because of the momentum that's underway, and people believe in what we're doing. So those are the things we're going to have to do. And recognizing that those traditional sources of support are going to be more challenging. Now we're investing in the research enterprise. We have lots of successful investigators, but we had really run out of quality space, back to talent and infrastructure. So we turned to the state and said, we want to focus on Kentucky's most pressing problems. Like everything we do nowadays, we partner. This is a $270 million building. If the state would give us 135, we would take responsibility for the 135 to complete the facility. So we're able to do that. That building is going to be in the neighborhood of 2 other research buildings, BBSRB, and the new College of Pharmacy building. Pharmacy building has largely education facilities on the first 2 floors, but the rest is all research. This 3rd building we'll have the groundbreaking on next month. It will have wet lab space, but we also want to design it to bring all the disciplines together at the University of Kentucky. Because nowadays, the answers to the thorniest questions are found at the intersection of the disciplines. And we have more disciplines in colleges at the University of Kentucky than you're going to find most places. In fact, there are only 9 universities in the country that have this breadth and depth. And in today's world of personalized medicine, you got to understand the genome. You got to understand I think what some people call the exposome, which is what you're exposed to in the form of experiences and substances. And then the phenome, what are the consequences of that? And you can find that information now in reams of medical data that we dump into repositories. None of the information identifies the patient, but the federal government now pays us in accord to the value that we provide. And they measure everything: hospital infections, readmissions, length of stay. They adjust it for how severe your cases are and all. So we got this mega data we can all have now. Well, how can we best use this? We think we can bring the disciplines together and make progress on all these fronts. The spine that's going to run through this new building and connect all the other 3 buildings, we're going to call the Appalachia Translational Trail, because our commitment is to quickly take discovery from the laboratory or through our dry research labs and get it to the bedside or get it to communities to improve health and extend life. We had our Board of Trustees meeting in Hazard, Kentucky a few weeks ago. First time we've been off state, out of Lexington, I think, in modern memory. And there were 2 maps there that were startling to me. At our healthcare committee, there was a map, one of these heat maps of the United States that showed the age-adjusted mortality 50 years ago. And there's a lot of red and orange and yellow, which is typically not good, and there was some green around the United States. Well, you look at that today, and most of the United States is green, except for certain pockets. And one of them runs through Kentucky. And then Jared Arnett, who I think is doing a great job in leading the SOAR initiative, and I tip my hat to Congressman Rogers and Governor Beshear. He showed a map of distressed counties, really in the southeast, all those states that cover Appalachia. And I think 54 of the 100 counties are in Kentucky. And every time I go there, people lift me with their stories. It's a resourceful group. That part of our state needs to be strong if we're ever going to be a real competitor. So that's a lot of our focus in that research building.
Any other questions that we have? Dave Atkinson.
Dr. Capilouto, update us on the hospital construction and specifically Children's Hospital.
Yeah. Let me say this. I grew up in an academic health center, and I visited a lot of them, and I sort of know the history of many of them. I think what's happened here in the last 10, 15 years is the greatest success story amongst academic health centers in the country. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago as a consultant, we want to become the subspecialty referral center for the state and region in a town of 300,000 people, when your population is concentrated down the road with over 1 million people, I would have said that is a far-fetched dream. But the dream has come true. I think this year alone, so far we've done nearly 30 heart transplants. I think they've done 2 in Louisville. We're the center, and people come here. We are the referral center, and they're now coming from other states. So we invested in the facilities, we attracted the talent. Tip my hat to Drs. Karf and Todd for that dream. Children's Hospital, one of the things we're doing now as we further complete floors in the new hospital, and we have decided to take advantage of the old Chandler, which is going to be a new Chandler in time. Our neonatal intensive care unit, we're going to build anew and extend that into what was the old Chandler. So we'll be doing more and more of those kinds of things. What is fantastic is what we hope to fully close on that we've started, and that is a partnership with Cincinnati Children's Hospital. That's probably one of the top 5 children's hospitals in the country. If you look at the policy work that's being done around children's hospitals, we anticipate that there'll probably be 20, 30 centers of excellence in the country, given the population bases and the type of care that's needed. You want to go to a place that does enough volume so that they're experts at it. Okay? So we're going to have an arrangement with them that we're going to be sort of one provider of care at 2 sites. We'll be so heavily integrated. So those rare cases that we can't treat here, quickly get them to Cincinnati. But because of the relationship, some of those cases that maybe we weren't able to treat before, we'll be able to do here. The why that Drs. Todd and Karp answered when we invested in our health facilities, it was simple. No Kentuckian should have to go far away from home to receive the very best of health care. And so the partnerships we have with local hospitals in Kentucky, where they view us as a partner. Most hospitals in other states view an academic health center as something hostile, because you send your patient there and you never see him again. But that's not the way it works here. We get somebody back home so that they can heal in their community. Last week I was in Clay County. I think it's the 3rd time I've been there. We opened another facility for some subspecialty care. We have our Markey Cancer Center affiliation there, Gill Heart Institute, and now some ophthalmology services. If those can't be handled there, they go to our other partner, ARH, their series of hospitals. And if it can't be handled there, then it comes here to Lexington. But in all those cases, we're talking to one another in the best interest of the patient and their families.
And the question back here?
Yes. Good morning. You talked about many successful projects and accomplishments this morning, and I wonder, what do you think, or what would you want to see as your legacy for the University of Kentucky?
I'm not big on my legacy, to be honest with you. I'm happy to get through each day at a time. You know, I think everybody that's come before me leaves the place better than it was. I hope I'm part of that. I really believe in the power of we. It takes a lot of people to do it. I'd like to think that some of the things we do will permanently transform because of our new facilities, for instance, the living learning communities that we can put together. I hope that continues. Those are very powerful ways to educate and improve learning. I hope some of the discoveries that will be made in our current and new research facilities will improve and extend life in Kentucky. I think our legacy needs to be preserved. And what do I talk about? To be in all 120 counties with our extension offices. We need to think of new ways of how we can utilize those connections to improve the Commonwealth. Those are the things I really think about. Most importantly, it's about the people we serve. Citizens of the Commonwealth, students who we've got to graduate in higher numbers. We've got to have better student success. And then the patients. You know, 10 years ago, we had 19,000 annual admissions to our hospital. We now have 37,000. That's a remarkable trajectory that we best serve all those people.
Question back there. Katie, you're getting a workout this morning.
Dr. Capilouto, tell us a little bit about the Markey Cancer Center and the NCI designation and also the Gill Heart Institute.
Sure. Again, that's work that really went on before I got here. I got to be there for the announcement, to be honest with you. So we invested in facilities, but we invested in talent. We brought Mark Evers here and his entire team. Talent begets talent, so other people wanted to come work with him. We had support from our federal delegation, our governor, president of the Senate, Speaker of the House. Everybody came together, a remarkable achievement. Makes available to Kentuckians clinical trials that they otherwise couldn't have participated in, more sophisticated care. Same thing with the Gill Heart Institute, and especially as we take our faculty and have them be parts of staffs at local hospitals. It's a great achievement. We want to even go for a higher level of recognition for our cancer center and for the Gill Heart Institute. Last week we had the director of the National Heart, Lung, Blood Institute. It's one of the NIH institutes. He was very impressed with what we're doing. We're bringing more talent in to expand our reach. Our new dean of the College of Public Health, Donna Arnett, well-funded investigator, former president of the American Heart Association. She'll build a team, complement what we do in the laboratory with some community-based research. So just getting better and better.
Morning, Dr. Gustavo Nazario, Foresters Financial. Tuition rates have been increasing the last 5-10 years steadily, maybe not every year, but close to it. With all the economic development and renovations around campus, you can't help but wonder if there's a correlation. But do you see that trend continuing over the next 5-10 years, or do you see a leveling off? And also, over under 8 wins for the football team. Your thoughts?
First of all, we are highly sensitive to price and the net price. We've nearly doubled our scholarship support over the last 4 years. We have to temper that, though. There's only so far you can go. We've had the lowest tuition increases in decades. The average is below 5% over the last 4 years. 85% of all students who enter the University of Kentucky have some form of grant or scholarship that they don't have to pay back. 50% of all the graduates have no debt. Of those who do have debt, it averages about $23,000. If you compare that, the average wage of somebody with a college degree in Kentucky and somebody with a high school degree, you could pay that $23,000 off in about 2.5 years. So you look at the construction and you say, whoo, that must add price. So this gives me an opportunity to elaborate on one partnership, and that is the one we have with Aramark that has come under some criticism. So, we had a competitive process to identify a partner, and partnerships mean a lot to us. You first got to share values, and they share our values, right? So what did that bring to the table for us? First of all, $70 million of capital. If you see that new dining facility, the 90, 1,200 seats, 4 retail outlets on the front, modern classrooms on the second floor, it's $35 million. They paid for it 100%. We own the building. The Patterson office building, the Patterson residence hall. Everybody know what I'm talking about? It was built in the early 1900s. It was built off campus. Everybody know why it was built off campus? The legislature funded it only under the condition it'd be built off campus. That's because it was the first women's residence hall, which, they didn't want on campus. But that's a $15 million renovation project. Imagine that old building. Aramark's paying for that. May have a little dining in there, but not much. It's going to be all new academic space. We challenge them too that we've got to innovate when it comes to supply lines for food, local purchasing, and so forth. So they gave us $5 million to create a center to examine those areas, and they have nothing to do with it. It's all under our control. So you would look at all that and say, wow, prices went up. So we had 6 meal plans, or 5, I've forgotten the exact number. All of them went down in price. The one that's all you can eat anytime you want to eat went down over $600. So you bring somebody with expertise that does something that is not in your primary mission, and you get better value. And that's what we got. And now the criticism that's underway, I want to address too. Before we even knew about Aramark or talked about putting our dining services out on the block for a partner, we've been measuring our purchases of foods the same way for 5 years. Okay? So when we brought in a partner, we were going to use the same yardstick. It's a way to measure your progress. So I know everybody's focusing on soft drinks. And yeah, they did increase. Aramark now sells at all our athletic events. Okay? It was a little different than before. So yep, those go up. And by the way, if you stand around and see all that stuff delivered, and it's bottled here, these are local people, right? Their jobs matter as well. But if you even strip that away and you look at our local purchases, they're up, depending on the category, a minimum of 15%, as high as 20% in some other areas. So that is a healthy partnership that keeps price down for students, all right? And I guarantee it improves the value. We've got not just the 90, we got dozens of new dining facilities on our campus for which they supply the capital. So those are the kinds of things we do because it's the total price of going to college that matters.
Last question before I turn it back over to Alan. So
You talked a lot about what's going on today. We can kind of get a glimpse when these projects are done about the future, but for the University of Kentucky to be, I hate to use this term, this phrase, but to be relevant for attracting the top students, for providing the best services and education possible, what must UK do going forward for the next 5 to 10 years? 10 years from now, what will we wake up and see that will have happened?
Sure. So right now, our graduation rates are about 61%. All right, and a lot of students, this is a 6-year graduation rate defined by the federal government. It is for first time, first year, first semester students. So if somebody starts the second semester and they're not included in this count, or if they transfer from a community college, they're not included in this count. So it has limitations, but it's a definition that's used broadly. Our retention from first to second year went up this year significantly. We had over 500 more students that are returning to campus than would have last year. So we're improving. But I want to join that club that gets you above 70%. There are only 80 universities in this country that are above that 70% mark. And that's the neighborhood we need to be in. And it's not just being part of an elite group. It's an indicator that we're best serving our students and the Commonwealth. So that we've got to do. Because of our investments in healthcare, our College of Pharmacy building, some of those spaces, we've had increases during a flat environment for federal support in our NIH funding. And you can measure creativity in a variety of ways, but we have got to increase the amount of funded research. This enables the discoveries I talked about that improve and extend life. It also is an incredible job creator. And we've got to move up those ranks as well. Those are two things that are very tangible and deserve our focus. There are lots of things to do to support all that. You got to have a diverse and inclusive campus. You got to have that kind of environment. That's the world people are going to live in. You got to have quality graduate education that's cutting edge, because that's getting more competitive. So, and then you got to finish the infrastructure we talked about.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Eli Capilouto. Before we wrap up, I do have a couple of station-related announcements. My general manager is sitting right there, so I know I have to talk about this. Coming up on Tuesday night at the UK Athletics Auditorium in the W.T. Young Library, WKY, WRFL, and the UK Women's Forum are holding a Lieutenant Governor's debate. Love to see all of you out there for that. It's also our 75th anniversary, and we're holding an open house on Saturday, October 17th, beginning at 3 o'clock. We'll be in the new studios, our future home. Yes, we're finally moving out of McVeigh Hall. We're going to be moving to the old St. Clair recording studios. It's off of Spur Road, and as I mentioned, the open house is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd love to see as many of you as possible to come out. And so that's it.
Excellent. Thank you both very much. And I just want to acknowledge a couple of things. Not only is Dr. Capilouto very approachable, but Mary Lynn, please give her our best. She is absolutely tremendous, fun to work with. Also, over here, we've got Tom Harris. Had Steve Byers. There's Steve. And Jay Blanton. You guys are absolutely incredible to work with, and you're that connector for so many of our staff with you. Thank you for everything you do. My boss, my board chair, Herb Miller, who, you don't get to see out in front, or back behind the scenes, you get to see what's out in front. One of the most dedicated servants I have ever run into in my entire career, understands, and if you just knew the things that went on that he has done, you would really be impressed, I think, more than the things that you get to see when you see him out in front leading us. Another thing I want to point out is Tom Harris a couple years ago talked about how many leaders had changed in our community. And Tommy had a list at one of our board meetings, like 85. And that's being really hardcore. That's not trying to throw everybody on the list you could think of. And since that time, we probably had, I think at one point we counted over 125 key leadership changes. And every one of those leadership changes has upped the ante for who we are. So I think what I'm getting to is we live in a new era. We are now recognized in Lexington and in central Kentucky as one of the leading mid-size, but we get put up there with all the big cities and all the rankings. We've gone from being in the top 50, which we really used to kind of, really kind of stand up, be proud of, to where we're a top 5, top 10 city. So we're in this incredible era. We heard today from one, not ordinary leader, but extraordinary leader, and the people around him that are here today and back at the university. But it's all up to all of us in this room, I think, to keep trying to figure out how do we take it up, working with our mayor, working with our council, Bill Farmer, who was just here and just had to step out. We got to figure out how do we up the ante, and why? Jobs, better jobs, and second of all, better quality of place. There is a direct correlation to what we in this room have to do, but I also want to leave you with this. We are where we're at today because of everybody in this room. Every one of you, day in, day out, the product, the service that you create, that you deliver. And I just want you never to forget, you're not assumed. We don't take you for granted, but also in each of your worlds, up the ante. And when you do that, we're going to keep going up those charts. And for example, public K through 12 education, something we talk a lot about. We should be top 5 in this nation, not where we're at today. We got some great schools. We got some great leaders there, but we can't allow a lot of the things that are happening to happen in our community when you look at some of the underperforming schools. It's a reflection on all of us. So anyway, we got a great community, but we got a lot of potential to grow and to make the best better, but even to take those things that we're not proud of and to turn them. And I think when we do that in our education system and we can maybe mirror and do a lot of what University of Kentucky's done, we will continue, I think, to have that praise. And it's not just national anymore, it's globally. Because a lot of the world's eyes are on us. So I would be shot if I didn't mention a couple of our upcoming events. We have 2 more major events left in the year. We have Governor's Candidate Forum with candidate Conway. Our Attorney General for the state will be here on October 23rd, and that'll be a public policy luncheon, so please don't miss that. And then also we have another Good Morning Bluegrass on November 12th, and it's going to focus on economic development, and we have Kim Knopf. Mayor Gray is going to facilitate this discussion with Kim Knopf, Innovative Mattress Solutions. They just moved their corporate headquarters to Lexington. Thank you again, Dr. Capilouto, for the role you played. And so she'll be one of the participants. Big Ass Solutions, Carrie Smith. Amazon will have Brad Shirk. And then also when we travel globally, and you probably see our economic development team, we are very global. When we're in Dubai in the Middle East, Blue Star Plastics, the owner here in Lexington, is from Dubai and Kuwait. Mohammed Hamza will be here, and so we're looking for that. This is going to be an outstanding panel. We hope that you all come back for those 2 events. And again, finally, thank you very much for coming here this morning. Thank our sponsors, Fifth Third being our presenting sponsor, and all of you who stepped forward to help out. Thank you, and have a great day. Thanks.